My best friend and I go camping once a year. It's something we've done ever since we were 13. Kind of a tradition. Over the years we've had storms, mild animals, weird weather, but nothing that ever really scared us. That changed last year. We chose in the Blue Ridge Mountains. It was peak season, and by the time we got there on the first night, most of the good spots were already taken. We were losing daylight, so we set up camp on the side of a ridge, basically a wind tunnel. It wasn't ideal, but it worked. The next morning we went into town, grabbed a few beers, messed around a bit, and headed back up into the mountains later in the afternoon. Again, we were racing the sunset, but we managed to find a better spot, remote, quiet, tucked away in the trees. We got the fire going, cracked open a few beers, standard stuff. Time passed. It was probably around 1 a.m. when we noticed it, a flashlight way out in the dark, aiming directly at us. At first we didn't think much of it. We figured it might be a park ranger or something, maybe checking permits or looking for something. But there's kind of an unspoken rule when you're out in the wild. You don't walk up on someone's campsite in the middle of the night, not unless it's an emergency. So already this was weird. The flashlight kept coming closer. Eventually, the beam reached the edge of our firelight, and we saw them. A man, maybe early 50s, and a woman, probably in her 40s. She stayed behind him, head down, avoiding eye contact. He was wearing just a t-shirt and basketball shorts, like he'd just gotten out of bed or something. No gear, no pack, no clear reason to be out there. He walked up like we were old friends and immediately started talking. Didn't explain why he was out here at 1 a.m. Didn't introduce himself. Didn't even look at the woman he was with. Just launched into a conversation about our lantern, how cool it was. Asked what model it was. Then, out of nowhere, he blurts out that he used to be in law enforcement. No context, no reason, just dropped it into the conversation like a rock. His eyes were dotting around the whole time. His flashlight wasn't steady. It kept sweeping over our gear, our backs, the fire, the ground near our tents. Then he shined it directly on the tents and said, with this weird half smile, "Oh, so that's where you guys are sleeping, huh? Cool setup." At that point, I wasn't listening to the words anymore, just watching his eyes. It hit me all at once. He was sizing us up, trying to figure out how many of us were there, what we had on us, what gear was out in the open, what was worth coming back for. He kept scanning the ground like he was taking inventory, and then, just like that, he stopped. The guy paused for a second, muttered something about having to get going, and turned around, walked straight off into the woods. No trail, no flashlight showing the way anymore, just vanished. As soon as the light disappeared, I looked at my friend. I didn't say a word. He just nodded and said, dead serious, "We're packing our shit, we're leaving." And that's exactly what we did. No hesitation. We threw everything into the car and drove off. Left the fire, the rest of the wood. Didn't even care. I don't know what that guy wanted. I don't know why he was out there. But everything about the way he moved, the way he looked at our stuff, the way he scoped the tents. He wasn't just being weird. He was planning something. Maybe he thought we'd fall asleep. Maybe he was going to come back and rob us. Or worse. All I know is if you've ever had someone size you up, like truly size you up, you know exactly what that feels like. You feel it in your bones, in your gut, and it never really leaves you. Have you experienced something you can't explain? A strange encounter? A night you'll never forget? Send me your story. It might be featured in an upcoming video. This happened when I was 11 years old. It was supposed to be a 5-day hiking trip through Grand Gulch with my parents. Just one of those adventurous things my stepdad liked to plan. Everything was going fine until the very end. When we were hiking out of the canyon, that's when things went wrong. The route up to the rim was supposed to be steep but manageable. We knew the trail would be faint, barely visible. But once we reached the top, we realized something was off. Way off. There was no trail, no landmarks, nothing looked familiar. We'd taken a wrong turn somewhere down in the canyon, and now we were above it, stranded on open desert, without a real sense of where we were supposed to go. We still knew the general direction, so we started walking, trying not to panic, and trying to conserve what little water we had left. We had left all the water pockets of the canyon below us, and now it was just dry earth and empty sky. That night, we slept under a pinyon pine. No tent, no comfort, just the three of us and the wind. We shared the last 2 power bars between us, hoping to find a road or anything the next day. The next morning, after hours of hiking in silence, we came across a faint track in the sand. A road, barely visible at first, but it became more pronounced the further we walked. I still remember the way my mom's face lit up when she saw it. That road meant something. Hope. We had left a shuttle bike near the road days earlier. The plan had been simple. One person rides it to the van parked miles away and comes back to pick us up. We finally reached the cache, and my stepdad hopped on the bike and rode off just as the clouds started to roll in. While waiting for him, we kept walking. Within half an hour, it started to rain. At first it was light, and then it turned into a full downpour. You'd think rain would be a bad thing out there, but after nearly 2 days without water, we were ecstatic. We held our mouths open. We soaked our shirts and squeezed them for drops. We were that desperate. Time passed, a lot of it. We waited, walked, waited more. Eventually we came over a rise and saw the parking lot in the distance. Our van was there, but it wasn't moving. My stepdad was there too, covered in mud, frantically trying to get the van started. The battery was dead, and just like that, the road didn't matter. The van didn't matter. We were still stranded. Without saying much, he jumped back on the bike and rode back down the muddy road. This time, even further, 6 more miles to the highway, hoping to flag someone down. We sat in the empty lot, wet, exhausted, and completely alone. It felt like the desert had swallowed the world. Eventually, a ranger driving through spotted him, asked questions, radioed for a tow, got us into Blanding, Utah, and somehow we got the van running again. That moment in the desert, surrounded by silence, hungry, dehydrated, watching my parents try not to panic, stuck with me. It wasn't some monster in the woods or shadow in the tent. It was real, the kind of fear that only hits when you're truly on your own. And for an 11-year-old, it felt like the world almost forgot about us. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. New true horror stories every week. You never know when one might hit a little too close to home. A few summers ago, my older brother Cameron and I went on a camping trip along the East Coast. He's the kind of guy who loves to plan everything. Trail maps, gear, even picking the exact camp spot. I usually just go along for the ride. This time, though, I wish we hadn't gone at all. The place he picked was remote. Really remote. We had to hike a few miles just to get there. It was nice, honestly. Peaceful. No one around. No sound but the wind and the birds. But the campsite itself didn't look like an actual campsite. There were no markers, no signs, no real clearing. Just these grassy openings between the trees. Cameron didn't think it mattered. We picked one that looked dry and flat, pitched the tent, and started our fire. At first we thought we were alone, but it didn't take long to notice a few things that felt off. There were small items scattered around the area. A single, worn-out hiking boot, a broken trekking pole, what looked like a torn sleeve from a jacket. Nothing huge, no full tents or bags, but still weird. It didn't make sense for someone to just leave that stuff behind. We talked about it, but Cameron shrugged it off. Probably just old campers, he said. Later that night, we were sitting by the fire, roasting marshmallows, when I saw something behind him. At first I thought it was a reflection, or a firefly, or something, but when I pointed it out, we both looked. Way off in the woods, through the trees, was a tiny orange flicker. A fire. Someone else was out there. It was far, really far, barely visible through the dense trees. If the moonlight hadn't been hidden by clouds, we probably wouldn't have seen it at all. We figured it was just another camper. A loner, maybe. Someone who wanted to be away from people. But the thing was, that direction, there were no trails, no clearings, just woods. Still, we didn't think much of it. We grabbed some snacks, talked until we got tired, and went to sleep around midnight. I woke up maybe an hour or two later. Nature called. I'd had too much water before bed. I grabbed a flashlight but didn't turn it on. Just unzipped the tent and stepped out quietly so I wouldn't wake Cameron. Walked maybe 50 feet out into the woods to do my thing. As I stood there, I noticed the fire out in the distance was still burning. I don't know why, but I kept staring at it. Maybe I was tired, or just zoned out. But as my eyes adjusted, I noticed something between me and the flame. A shape. It looked like a person. Just standing there. At first I thought it had to be a tree or a bush. I told myself that over and over. But then I saw another, then two more. Soon I counted at least 10, maybe more. All standing still, all facing in my direction. It felt like my heart stopped. I turned and rushed back to the tent, tripping a little on the way. I stood outside for a second, debating whether to wake Cameron. I didn't want him to think I was losing it, but my gut said this was wrong. I unzipped his tent and shook him awake. "I saw something. Can you come look?" He mumbled something but got up. I led him to where I had been. We didn't even get 10 steps into the woods before we both froze. The figures had moved. They were closer, spread out, just standing among the trees. I looked at Cameron. His face was pale, his mouth slightly open. He saw them too. That's when I realized they were people. You could see it now. The way they shifted slightly, swaying almost, watching us. We backed up, slowly. Cameron whispered, "Should we go?" Hearing him say that, the guy who never panics, never flinches, was the scariest part of all. We didn't take anything, just our keys and wallets. Left the tent, the gear, everything. We hiked out in the dark with nothing but a weak flashlight. And the thought of those people standing out there, unmoving. We got to the car and drove until sunrise. We reported it to the police. They barely even took notes. They said there hadn't been any reports like that in the area. No missing persons. No strange activity. They looked at us like we were wasting their time. But what about the stuff we saw left behind? The random gear, the lone shoe, the torn sleeve. Maybe people had reported